Mic check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Microphone check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So just everybody along the back there, just please don't lean or sit on those risers because it'll cause shake on the live stream. And just again, we want to keep this aisle clear. Elliot, is that one camera too high or is it okay?
my first time here in this room for a press conference as well. So, good afternoon, my friends. It is a privilege to be gathered here today in a building that belongs to the people of New York, but has too long been withheld from the people of New York. There is a reason that we are here in this room. For generations, the Blue Room has been reserved only for traditional press. But this administration is not traditional. And the way we reach New Yorkers cannot be either. You are newsmakers. You are trusted voices in communities across every borough in our city. Across races, religions, cultures. And as I look out onto this room, less than 1 week since I was sworn in as the mayor of New York City, and joined by tens of thousands at our inauguration here at City Hall and in the block party that we had in the block stretching beyond, I see faces now of New Yorkers that so many in this city turn to and trust, not just during the work of the campaign or the transition, but also during the work of governing. And when those in this city want to make sense of this city, when they want to feel the solidarity that sometimes feels absent in this city, when they want to figure out where to get some good momos in this city, when they want to understand how and if government works and who it's meant to serve, or whether they want to get involved and hold those in power accountable, they turn to you. They turn to you, and they do so because many of these New Yorkers have not felt the presence of government in their own lives or in their own communities for all that long. They don't know what it looks like when government makes a positive difference in their lives, when government fills their days with dignity. These are tenants and young people, immigrants and trans New Yorkers, people who speak one language with their parents and another with their friends. As we transform how City Hall serves the people, we want to also transform how it speaks to the people too. Not just with a newfound empathy and interest in everyday people's lives and struggles, but also with a new approach to communicating that speaks to New Yorkers where they are, through the people they start and end their days with. Here's the truth. We are going to have a lot to share. Because already, not even 1 week into this position, we are taking real steps forward in our agenda of affordability. And while I am so proud of the work that we have done and the work that we will continue to do, the progress we deliver will be wasted if New Yorkers do not know how their lives can be improved and are unaware of the resources they can now turn to. So I want to talk to you now, and I will try to run through this quickly, about some of what we've already done and how it will impact New Yorkers. But before I walk you through it, I do want to ask you all a few questions. Could you raise your hand if you have ever been charged for something you didn't really agree to? A free trial that quietly became a bill? A hidden fee on your airfare or a doctor's visit? A gym subscription that was impossible to cancel? Now, could you raise your hand if you ever paid more in rent while your apartment got worse? Broken heat, leaks, unsafe conditions, or been hit with extra fees just to apply, move in, or pay your rent. And now raise your hand if you've ever felt like City Hall or government in general doesn't really listen to people like you. Maybe you, if you needed some help, but hit a wall of paperwork. Maybe if you reached out to your representative, but you never heard back. Maybe you watched decisions get made without your community in the room or even being thought of. Or maybe you voted or even volunteered and never saw the change that you had hoped for be delivered. Now, I would bet that seeing this many hands in the room at each one of these questions is not a surprise to any of you. These all feel like near universal realities for so many who call this city home. It's something that we've become accustomed to, almost. But that is also what happens when systems are built to be confusing, to be unaccountable, to be disconnected from the people that they're supposed to serve. What we are doing differently in my administration, and what we have already delivered in the past 6 days since I was sworn in as the mayor of this incredible city, is about changing that. So first, we've stood up for tenants by revitalizing the mayor's office to protect tenants, announcing rental ripoff hearings across all 5 boroughs, and announced a new commissioner of the Department of Housing Preservation and Development named Dina Levy, who has spent decades fighting fiercely on tenants' behalf. Second, we are going after fees and deceitful practices that drain New Yorkers' bank accounts. I am talking about the junk fees that add $20 to your gym membership each month, the $30 that comes out of nowhere when it's time to buy those Lucy Dacus tickets, the added fees that your landlord thinks that they can burden you with. And third, we are making our city safer and easier to get around. Whether we are paving the Williamsburg Bridge bump that causes so many bike accidents each day, or announcing that we are going to complete the redesign of McGinnis Boulevard as it was originally intended so that New Yorkers can actually bike through Greenpoint without fear, we are improving the streetscapes and the physical infrastructure of our city. And finally, we are placing New Yorkers, not billionaires or career politicians, at the heart of these efforts. On our second day in office, we established a new office, the Mayor's Office of Mass Engagement, led by Tasha Van Auken, who served as the field director on our campaign and helped us build a movement of more than 100,000 volunteers who knocked on millions of doors and made even more phone calls. This office is going to be something that ensures that people-powered is not just a buzzword or how we describe how we got here, but it is instead something that continues to define our politics and governs our decision-making and our policy proposals. We are moving at a pace that is as fast as the city that we love. In 6 days, we have signed 11 executive orders. Historically, it would take months to get to that number. Now that I know we built a movement around some pretty ambitious concepts: dignity, affordability, a government of the people, for the people. Now that we're in government, we have both the privilege and the responsibility to free those concepts from abstraction and put them into practice. Already we are seeing that it is not only possible to do so, but it is transformative when we do so. Because when people see themselves and their interests reflected in governance, they care more about their democracy, they feel like they have a greater say in their city, and they participate more themselves. We can only deliver for all of us if all of us work to deliver. So thank you for being here, for continuing to share the not always glamorous work of government with the people of this city and far beyond, and for holding those of us fortunate to be your public servants to account. Thank you so much.
I'm also apologies if I can't find you in the crowd. With that, but we'll start with Layla.
Oh, hi.
Hi, Layla.
I'm Layla. We met briefly at the primaries walking from Trump Tower to your debate. I'm a Persian Lebanese content creator here. In the past 6 months, I've had so much fun making content for you. I've personally reached over 120 million people around the world, so it's really impactful, and it's just been really an honor to do that for you. And I do it through just dancing and spreading joy. So now for my question. I have been living in the Upper East Side for 8 years in the same apartment. Every year our rent goes up a tiny bit, but this year, on the eve of November 3rd, my landlord, who is kind and does try very hard, texted me and my roommate that he will be raising our rent 9.4% if we sign for 1 more year, or 6.25 if we re-sign for 2 more years. I love my apartment, I love its quirks, but there are several issues, which I'm sure a lot of other New Yorkers have, like falling apart walls, things being painted over, whatever is broken. I had a stalker that lived next door to me for 5 years that is now gone, thankfully. Lack of security, broken intercom system, things like that. And so I was wondering, how will the rental ripoff hearings be able to address concerns like this for myself and then other fellow New Yorkers who probably have much worse issues than this?
Well, first of all, thank you for both sharing this question with us and the experiences that you've lived through as a New Yorker. The intent of the rental ripoff hearings, and also my selection of Sam Levine as our new commissioner for the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection is to finally give New Yorkers a place where they can register these kinds of complaints and concerns. Some of the ripoffs that New Yorkers will speak about, I am sure, are the ones they've already shared with me. Ripoffs like being charged fees that they cannot explain, ripoffs like being charged for services that are actually now supposed to be incorporated within the rent. Some of them, however, will also align with what you have just shared, which is a denial of repairs oftentimes, or an inability to actually get the services that you are owed. And what we are looking to these ripoff hearings to do is not just to collect testimony, but rather to use it as an opportunity to create proposals for policy, implementation, and enforcement. And the last piece is critical because a law's worth is only so much as a New Yorker's knowledge of that same law. And there are many laws that exist already to protect tenants, to protect workers. And yet if those tenants and workers do not know of them, then they can be taken advantage of. And so our work will be equal parts deliberation and legislation in partnership with the City Council, as well as enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can everyone raise your hand so I can check in form just to make sure? Okay, Maurice at Bronx Native.
Yes, right here. Yes. First of all, how's everyone doing? That's awesome. I just want to say you're doing an amazing job, and I'm super happy to be part of this movement, this new era. My question is, how can you help local entrepreneurs and business owners that are struggling to acquire physical spaces to run their business in the city, as well as help struggling local businesses to keep their spaces through this tough season right now, January, Feb, first quarter?
You know, I think it's so critical to highlight the entrepreneurs and the small businesses across our city. And too often we measure these small businesses by how many open, but we don't ask ourselves as much by how many close or how they're doing in between those two moments. And so we made a commitment over the course of the campaign and how we would cut red tape, how we'd make it easier for those small businesses to navigate the bureaucracy. And one of the critical things that I've also appreciated in making my appointment of Julie Sue as the Deputy Mayor for Economic Justice is this is someone who will bring the understanding that what workers are facing in this city and what small businesses are facing in this city are part of a similar struggle that we have to deliver on. So it comes down to cutting red tape, cutting fines and fees, and also ensuring that where the city actually owns commercial properties, that we are doing everything we can to fill those properties. Thank you, brother.
So it's obvious that like your rental ripoff hearings, that addressing bad landlords and affordability are immediately within your time frame. Where in your timeline is addressing long-term housing solutions for homeless New Yorkers?
So this is a key part of the portfolio of our Deputy Mayor of Housing and Planning, Layla Bozarg, who has done incredible work in the past and is already hitting the ground running in putting together a housing plan for the long term, because we have to build an incredible amount of additional housing across the city, and we also have to do so with a view towards how we can ensure that New Yorkers can afford to live in that kind of housing. So a lot of that work of planning, a lot of that work of building across the city will fall within her portfolio. Then the question of taking on homelessness is also critically important. And I'm so proud to have our Deputy Mayor for Health and Human Services, Helen Arteaga, who comes from running Elmhurst Hospital in Queens, who will be doing a lot of the work of ensuring that our social services are actually being delivered to those who are in dire need of it.
Thank you.
Hey, how's it going, Kevin?
How are you? I have two quick questions for you. I'll be
Please.
really brief. First, we know that you're inviting new media here, and earlier this week you were meeting with New Yorkers on the bus and having direct communication with them. How important will communicating directly with New Yorkers be during your term as mayor? And do you foresee that getting more difficult as we get further along?
It's going to be a critical part of the work that we do. You know, there are so many New Yorkers, as I shared as we began this press conference, for whom all of you in this room are how they start their days and how they end their days. There are so many New Yorkers for whom social media is the medium through which they understand not just their life, but the struggles of their life. And we are looking to speak to those, especially who have long regarded government as if it is somebody else's concern, as if it does not have a relevance in their own life. And the longer you spend in government, the more tempting it is to think only of government, to only have your press conferences in this room, For example, I have been meeting with the press corps every single day, and we have done so across the entirety of the city. We will meet here as well, but it's important to also take this message out to New York City, as well as bring the rest of New York City in to this same building. And, you know, when I went on the Q70, which is the one fare-free bus here in New York City, what I loved about it is you hear what it actually means for people in their life. So often politics gets distilled into statistics, into the narratives that we have read time and time again. But then when you sit with a young man who tells you that this bus being free means he can get home every single day without having to worry about how much money is in his pocket. When you sit with someone and you hear from them about how that bus being free means that they don't have to cut into the check that they're about to make at LaGuardia because of the cost to get there, you remember what is driving this moment and what is driving this movement. And so I will always have to get outside to make sure that this is a politics that reflects the rest of the city, not just the confines of this place.
We all just saw what happened in Minneapolis. An ICE agent shot a woman directly and killed her instantly. And we know that in the previous administration, there were a lot of run-ins with ICE in the city where New Yorkers thought that NYPD officers were either protecting or assisting ICE agents. So how can New Yorkers, under your mayorship, trust that NYPD, when those situations arise, will be there to protect them and not to protect mass secret agents?
Well, I first just want to make clear that the news coming out of Minneapolis is horrific. This is one part of what has been a year full of cruelty. And we know that when ICE agents attack immigrants, they attack every single one of us across this country. And this is a city and will always be a city that stands up for immigrants across the 5 boroughs. And I have made it clear to everyone within my city government, and that extends to NYPD, that we are going to uphold our sanctuary city policies. We are going to adhere to them. That is why one of the 11 executive orders that we signed was to repeal the previous administration's order to allow for collaboration with ICE on Rikers Island. What we are going to be doing is following the laws that we have set, laws which have kept New Yorkers safe. And we are going to make it clear to each and every person in the city what their rights are. That's why we took the time to make a Know Your Rights video, because it goes back to the earlier question. If you don't know of your rights, then how can you be expected to actually use those rights? So we are going to take every opportunity we have to inform New Yorkers of what they already can do, and also to make it clear to our own city government agencies and departments across the board, including NYPD, that we are not here to assist ICE agents in their work. We are here to follow the laws of New York City. Thank you very much.
You said Steph.
Yes.
That's me. Hi. I'm so grateful to be here. Congratulations and thank you. My question is about government bureaucracy. You've addressed it before as it pertains to small businesses, and I appreciate you acknowledging that it is an issue in the interviews you've done even before you were elected. I'm curious, now that you're in office, what bureaucratic incentives do you feel like are the biggest obstacles for you and your agenda, and what are you doing to address them?
You know, in one of the earlier conversations I had with Lena Khan, she told me that when she got to the FTC, it felt like she was experiencing the great forgetting, where people had grown accustomed to forgetting the actual potency of the tools they had in front of them. And the challenge that represents is having to push past an answer of this is how things are done, or this is how we've always done them, and instead ask, what are we able to do? And so what I've been so appreciative of is that we are building a team that is looking at these tools in the full sense of what they are able to accomplish, as opposed to what they've been used to accomplish for the past few years, the past few administrations. So even the references we've made to rental ripoff hearings, or the city's intervention in a bankruptcy court case against Pinnacle Realty, these are examples of a city that is not going to be afraid to use its own power to stand up for working New Yorkers. And what I'm excited about is that all of this is animated by a belief in government's purpose as being one that serves working people. And if you understand that, then you are willing to do everything that it takes to actually deliver on that. Very welcome.
Taiwan.
Good afternoon, Mayor.
Good afternoon.
I really appreciate the time I got following you, and that's what really changed my mind and made me vote for you during that canvassing for the taxis. So I have two quick questions. First of all, I'm a vendor and I'm a music producer from Jamaica, Queens.
Okay.
And I want to know, because I lost a lot of contracts when the Trump administration came in, are we going to get contracts back with vendors for after-school programs, because that's what our children need?
Look, this is a focus of our work. You know, when we ran the campaign, we spoke again and again about the importance, especially of universal childcare. After school is also critically important for so many. And I think that one of the first tasks we have in front of our administration is stabilizing what we have seen over the last few years, and then also simultaneously advancing our vision. So we've said that the days of spending a budget process forcing the public library to justify its own existence, those have to come to an end. The days now that we are starting to embark upon will be one where we are honest with New Yorkers about the fiscal challenges we have, but also create a budget that is a reflection of our own values. And for me, those values include taking care of our children across the city. And so that's where we're hard at work at right now.
The second question would be about St. Albans, Queens. We have this battery issue that we're having. So we have private homes that are being built next to these battery farms. So lithium batteries, they explode, and they're they're 5 feet away from these private homes. So people are concerned in Jamaica, Queens. Can we get some help with that issue?
So that is an issue that I'm going to follow up with after this meeting. Thank you for raising it. Appreciate it.
My name is Juan Bago, and actually today I do not have a question. My son has a question for you.
Okay.
And I'm going to read it to him. Hopefully your staff doesn't verify if it's real or not. Dear Mayo Zozo, you and I have a parent that is a filmmaker, one of more successful than the other. My question is, as mayor, do you and your staff have a plan to support independent filmmakers and content creators in New York City? P.S. My dad bribed me $5 and a trip to Chuck E. Cheese to ask this question.
Wow. Tell your dad not to bribe me, because we don't do that here. Thank you for that question, my friend. Thank you for being here as well. I think that the arts are a critical part of this city. And too often we think about the arts as if they are separate from an agenda of affordability. And so we don't want to just make it easier for filmmakers to tell the stories of this city, though we do. We also want to make it easier for filmmakers to be able to afford to live in this city. And I always think back to the conversation that you may have, or your father may have seen, you probably didn't see it, maybe others in this room have seen it, where Timothy Chalamet and Coleman Domingo were having a conversation and they realized they actually lived in the same building. And they lived in that same building because it was a building that was built with the intent of providing subsidized housing for artists. And so what we need to do in this city is ask ourselves, if we want to have this city continue to be the cultural capital of the country, we also have to invest in it such that artists can actually afford to live here and not just dream of coming to stay here. And that's going to be a big part of our housing plan. Thank you. Hi.
Mayor Mamdani, thank you so much for having us here. It's such an incredible experience as a content creator to be able to come into the space. My name is Avani, and I make fitness content. And if it's okay, I'm going to ask my question first in Spanish and then in English. Siendo alguien que hace contenido en el ambiente atlético, soy muy consciente que el acceso a gimnasios y a espacios seguros es un privilegio. Por ejemplo, las multas innecesarias de los gimnasios cuando una persona está intentando mejorarse puede limitar su acceso. ¿Cuál es su plan para mejorar el acceso del residente promedio de Nueva York a espacios de actividad física? Y en términos generales, ¿cómo ayudará su agenda económica para mejorar la salud física y mental de los residentes de Nueva York? As someone in the fitness space, I'm very aware that access to gyms and safe spaces is a privilege. For example, the gym fees, while trying to make strides towards self-improvement, can hinder someone's access. What is your plan to improve the average New Yorker's access to fitness spaces? And generally, how would your affordability agenda help improve the physical and mental fitness of New Yorkers?
It's a lovely question. I think the first thing that we are focused on is that New Yorkers actually be able to trust that the subscriptions they're signing up for or the memberships are ones that they can also get out of and ones where they agreed to pay the amount that's being charged to them. Because what happens when you are ripped off or you are overcharged or you face a junk fee is it also diminishes your trust in that activity as a whole. And we do not want to turn people away from exercise and physical activity. We want, in fact, to make it as easy as possible for them to express themselves in the city that is theirs. And so we are going to make clear to gyms as well as any and all businesses across this city that the law is something to be followed, not something to simply be considered. And that means to end the practice of subscription traps. It means to end the practice of junk fees and overcharging. What we also have to do is invest in our public spaces as well. And we have to make it easy for New Yorkers to exercise outside as well as they can inside. And that is something that I appreciate very deeply as someone who grew up in this city and also someone who has run very, very slowly around this city and has done so because of the parks of this city. And I think that for a long time, we have thought of some of these questions, some of these points, whether they be arts or physical activity, as if they are just footnotes to what should be the focus of city government. But they are, in fact, so much of what makes this a city people want to live in. And so we need to actually treat it that way.
Thank you so much.
Very
Slow
welcome.
runners still run marathons. I'm a slow runner and I've done too, so enjoy it.
Thank you. Thank you.
I also enjoyed running a marathon, but I have a three-part question.
Okay.
One is the mayor of Minneapolis.
We'll do one at a time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mayor of Minneapolis, Fry, has said, I should get the F out of Minneapolis. Do you have the same attitude in New York? And do you have any idea whether President Trump plans to surge ICE agents here? And even if he doesn't, how to protect New Yorkers?
Now, I can't speak to what the president will do. I can tell you, however, what I've also said to him directly, which is that I believe that these raids are cruel and inhumane, and they do nothing to actually serve the interests of public safety. And what New Yorkers want to see is a city that they are safe in, a city that they can also feel comfortable leaving their home in. And I can tell you, when we did The Mayor is Listening, when I sat for 12 hours at the Museum of the Moving Image in Astoria, I had a number of undocumented New Yorkers come and speak to me and share with me the anxiety that they live with each and every day, the fear when they leave their home, and also the sense that when they hug their aunt, it may be the last time that they do so. And so we will continue to make clear that this is a city that stands up for immigrants, and also this is a city that will follow its laws of sanctuary city policies, precisely because these are laws that keep New Yorkers safe. And prior to this moment in time, these were laws that were defended by people of both parties because of what they were seeing as actually delivering.
We have one question for President Biden.
Just very quickly follow up about the Trump administration ending $10 billion in funding to 5 Democrat-led states, which for childcare for low-income, in our case, New Yorkers. What is your plan right now on universal childcare and to subsidize people who are going to be losing that support for everything from childcare to paying for diapers?
This is a cruel decision that seeks to play politics with the future of our kids' lives here in this city. And I am looking forward to working with our partners in Albany to not only fight this, but I also take heart from the fact of what the governor said yesterday, which was her confidence in being able to defeat this move in court. And we also know that it is insufficient to simply protect that which we do have. We also have to meaningfully advance our vision of universal childcare. It costs a family $22,500 a year to take care of a single child in this city. 80% of families with kids under the age of 5 cannot afford to live here any longer. This is an imperative for us. And so our task in this year ahead and in every year is to meaningfully advance this vision of universal childcare. We said that the beginning of that would be to fix 3K and then start to provide additional childcare for ages younger than that portion. And that's what we have to be doing.
And how do you leverage your position against President Trump abducting?
I'm sorry, Amy, I have to go on to other questions. Yeah, thank you.
Laura Gerard.
Hi, Mayor Mamdani.
How's it going?
I met you briefly on Election Day, and I haven't had a chance to say congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I work in fitness, too, and I echo Alan's sentiments about how important affordability and accessibility is. You've talked about the junk fees specifically, like it's a huge joke in the fitness industry about what horrible offenders gyms are with memberships. When we talk about things like the junk fee actions and the rental ripoff boards, it sounds great in theory, and in practice for a lot of New Yorkers, these things end up being a lot more bureaucracy and a lot more red tape. How can everyday New Yorkers expect to see these things in practice in how much we're paying to live here?
You know, I really appreciate the question and the framing of it, because I think what it speaks to is why so few people have hope in government's ability to actually deliver. And in Sam Levine, we have a commissioner for the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection who has demonstrated record of results at the national level. This is someone who was a key part of the FTC under Lena Khan's leadership, and someone who has shown the ability to take on junk fees, subscription traps, exactly these kinds of things at a nationwide level. And so what I appreciate in this is we are not looking to make an announcement that we will then not return to. What we are in fact looking to do is empower a leader within our city government to collect testimony from New Yorkers and then start to make rules on the basis of that testimony, create policy, and deliver a new landscape in this city where those kinds of fees are not ones that you come to accept as the cost of doing business, but they are in fact things that we know have no place in the city. Thank you.
Nice to meet you again.
Hi, Toya.
We
Nice
met
to
in
see you again.
Esplanade a couple months ago, and I asked too many questions, so I will not do that today. So I'm a historian, and my question is, like everyone's talked about already, you've moved really quickly on the rental ripoff hearings. I'm excited to see what that's like, and the junk fee orders. Are there historical mayors, I know you said LaGuardia was your favorite mayor on the tour, or moments in New York history's past, like I think about the Harlem Tenants Council and the Harlem strikes, Harlem rental strikes in the 1930s that have impacted you and how you prioritize, what you prioritize early on? And then my second question to follow up with that is, how does it look from a vantage point of not being like an activist or a person, but now being a person inside a mayor who can actually make change?
You know, my favorite mayor will continue to be Fiorello LaGuardia, and I think of his example often. LaGuardia founded what is today called the New York City Commission on Human Rights. At that time, it had a different name. And today we announced our new executive director, our new commissioner and chair of that entity. And in doing so, we announced our commitment to actually follow through on allegations of housing discrimination that take place across the city, on allegations of discrimination on the basis of race or religion or sexual orientation or disability status. And in announcing new leadership, we continue to fulfill that same vision from decades ago. I think what appeals to me so much about LaGuardia's legacy is it was one that measured itself by the work that it did for New Yorkers. And it delivered for working New Yorkers also at a time of incredible anti-immigrant animus. And it did so without trying to pit the two against one another, but instead speaking of a vision of the city that was for all, and a vision of the city that was built around the importance of public goods. And as much as we think about the New Deal, as we should, we also have to recognize that those words were in fact first spoken here in New York. And there are examples that we should emulate in learning about that history. And then to your second question, you know, it is so incredibly exciting to be part of a team that is actually delivering on this kind of work. And now delivering doesn't just mean taking on the crises that we have all spoken about and known about. It also means showing that there is no job too small. No job too small, no crisis too big for city government to actually concern itself with. And, you know, the other day we covered over the Williamsburg Bridge bump. Now, this is something that I myself have biked over many a time and have done so with real anxiety about how I'm going to look and feel at the end of that bump. But it was also, more importantly, something that New Yorkers had flagged for me over the course of the campaign. And what I appreciated about it is what they were flagging for me was not just that particular instance, but also an example of, if you can't fix this, how are you going to do anything else? And what we want to show New Yorkers is we can do both, and we are going to do both. Thank you.
Anyone who did not get their questions, I'm gonna collect them from you and figure out something to do, or figure this front of the line for next time. We're gonna take a really quick photo of the great one.
Well, I will say, before we take this photo, I really do want to say thank you to everyone here for the work that you do, for the ways in which you keep New Yorkers engaged and involved, and also to make a commitment to you that this kind of engagement is something that will continue to characterize our administration, because we need to speak to New Yorkers through every single medium that they see themselves and see the world around them, and all of you are such critical parts of that. And now I'm going to take a very poorly composed selfie, and then I will walk out of this room, and I will see you all very soon. They told me to do 0.5, but I don't know how to do that. So here we go. We're gonna do this one. No, I'm not doing 0.5. I'm not doing 0.5. Here we go. You guys in? Didn't elect a Zoomer, you elected a millennial. Thank you guys. It's a real pleasure. I'll see you all soon.
So we've seen the financial district as well as downtown Brooklyn